So, we brought our good friend Jayson back in today, and he's going to share with us some cool art because Damon and I had such a good time doing this show and tell episode a while back. And we were having a good time with Leroy last week, so we wanted to see some more art.
Yeah.
And where do you want to start us?
Oh, it's
Pull
me?
Here.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry?
why don't we start
Oh,
with your
shit,
stuff?
Okay.
And then, so we were also thinking about jumping back in and looking at some of the stuff that came out of Artstation this week. And did you want to show your piece? Did you still want to do that?
What, the Ian Spriggs one? Or my personal
Your
work?
personal piece? No. Okay. Well, in the future, we might also roll in a whole like critique or things that we're working on here as well. So that could be fun too. But for right now, we're going to start off with Jayson.
Okay.
So
Sorry if I was going to lean forward so I'm not...
reorganize stuff.
Cool. Hey, good afternoon, Coltron.
It's me.
Let's start with Torregiano and this Isabel Vale II. Just look at that.
Damn.
Just look at that cloth. So close.
So was this a piece that you came across
imagine?
recently, or was this something that like inspired you early on?
Recently, I saw this in the Museo del Prado a few months ago, and it was amazing. I got a pic. I was about to take a picture of it, and then like all of the folks that work there just sort of came out of the woodwork, and they're like, "No photos."
Oh,
It's like,
wow.
Oh, okay, fine.
Wait, then how did this
But
happen?
This I didn't take. This is from Google.
One guy snuck his iPhone in.
But
iPhone
I
11, folks.
Heroes.
luckily managed to take a picture of the name plaque before I actually took a picture of the statue. I think that was okay
Yeah.
because they saw me do that, and then as soon as I
Soon as
lifted
you
it,
were
yeah, they were like,
No.
Critical angle.
"Stop! This is how we make money. Just don't take that from us." Which I did not want to do.
I don't get that, though.
But, well, it's because, so the government there doesn't necessarily fund the arts as well as it does. Well, I can't say here because we don't.
Yeah, we don't really do that here either.
But, they make a lot of money off the tourism there.
Sure.
And if you could just go look at all the photos online. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really get it either because you would still, if you wanted to go to the museum, you would still go.
Right.
Right.
If
It's obviously
Yeah.
way different to see this amazing sculpture in person.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you can look at all of the things that are on the Louvre, or at the Louvre, on the Louvre's website, but it's still not the
you
same.
still want to go to the Louvre because it's
Yeah.
the Louvre.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
everyone knows what the Last Supper looks like, but...
Yeah. But in person,
I mean,
it's different.
maybe some people don't want to see it in person. I actually don't care about that one in
Yeah.
person, but...
I've also heard, like, the Mona Lisa is very insignificant in person.
Compared to the other things that are in the Louvre, it kind of is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah?
You just want to check it off and then move on to the other art.
That's what we did. We walked into the room. There's a huge crowd. It's like a hall, right?
Wow.
And it's just full of people, like wall to wall. So you have to kind of sneak up to get in there to see it. And then it's like that big. Sorry, folks. It's like that big on the wall in front of you, and you're just like, okay.
Just
Yeah, cool.
guards all around.
She got a little smirk. I see it. It's cool.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because that's one of the ones that you've seen so many times in like media and online where it
Yeah.
actually kind of has probably lost its appeal
Yeah.
in a way.
So maybe we're making Museo del Prado's point by saying
We are, exactly. I'm 100% arguing the opposite side now.
Yeah, but this piece was amazing. Among other pieces that were there, I'm not wild about the way that he connected it to the plinth, to be honest.
Mm.
I mean,
You
like
just set it on top.
the leaves are cool, but yeah, it's just like this round base that just comes up like that. It
like
could have been cool to like let the fabric, like make the fabric look like it's draping down instead.
Yeah.
But who am I to
He probably
critique
just,
a master artist?
yeah. Well, he probably put in so much time up here, and then by the time
Oh,
he
yeah.
got down there, he was like, you know what?
I
I'll
just
just ship it.
do that all the time. Yeah, I'm also looking at it and I'm like, oh, look at this fucking triangle pole right here. You gotta
I know, that's
fix
so
your
fun.
topology.
Well, I mean, that's what's so crazy though, is that like we're thinking of how we would make this in ZBrush, right?
Yeah.
But that this is made out of stone
Yeah.
or marble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
We probably sculpted it in clay first and then.
figure it out from there.
Still.
But it's just amazing to have that kind of, like, to know what you're going for so well that you can, knowing there's no Control Z, you're able to commit and figure out what it's going to look like to have, like, a stone going over somebody's face that's supposed to look like fabric.
Yeah.
I mean, just figuring out how to render that in a sculpture
Well, and then
is amazing.
he's got braids going on here and
Jeez.
jewels and stuff going on here. So there's so much work put into it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then the thinness of
that blows my mind.
the marble down here is crazy. And the way it looks like
yeah.
it's overlaying on top of itself over here.
I don't
down
know
this corner.
how. Is this? I mean, I guess the only way to do this is kind of like, you know, that SpongeBob episode where he has a big block of thing and then he just taps it and it turns it. You have to sculpt it down, right? It's just it's only a subtractive process. There's no additive.
It's all boom
Right.
baby.
Yeah, but a lot of it is based on measurements. So sculpt it in clay first, and then you have all these measurements that you're taking, and then you're subtractively removing based on those measurements. So it's not like you don't have a roadmap of what you're doing.
Right.
It's not like you're just like tink, and then like it's SpongeBob where you get the full sculpture. I mean that's what
Be nice.
who was it that said that? I think Michelangelo said that like he saw the form within
Yeah.
which all right, bud.
That's
That's
for
good-
David or
good
something.
Yeah,
PR.
but do you think how many clay practice runs did he do before sculpting this, and then how
That's a
many
good
marble
question.
attempts did he take as well?
Yeah, I
there's
don't know.
got to be, like 20.
Like one where it's
Yeah.
like 90% done and the nose just chipped a little too.
Well, and then
Yeah.
with sculpture like this in this time period, so this was roughly the 1800s, late 1800s or mid 1800s, which would have been out of the Baroque period into sort of
That's later. I thought.
yeah, I believe it was. Let's
I have no idea. I just was
It's a bit-
assuming that.
yeah, I mean, I just looked at it and I feel like I could be wrong,
But
but
it's away from my slow internet today.
it looks like Baroque to me.
Yeah, indeed, I agree.
So don't fix it. Where's that where you were gonna get to?
No. I wish I was that clever.
That's an old joke.
Yeah.
There's what Colton's internet's really slow today, so
Insanely slow.
Non-existent.
you're gonna edit this
probably.
part out, right?
Probably not. So I would jump back to your art one of these.
And miss
Yeah.
this gold.
Let's take a look at her some more while it loads. Also, just like the way that the cloth thins out on the nose,
Yeah.
or appears to do so, I suppose. Like it's not really a layer like we would think of. You would add like a subtool, right?
Yeah.
Of like what that cloth would be on top, but no, it's like sculpting it.
Well, it's almost an
one time.
illusion.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
I know, like,
Wow, it looks so different.
with
in
all
that
of the
picture,
modern
too.
tools and everything that we have
Yeah.
now with ZBrush and whatnot,
at that.
I still would have an insanely hard time trying to do
That's
something
what's so
like this.
impressive about
Yeah,
it.
here's
And that's with ZBrush.
plinth connection.
Yeah, with as many Control Z's as you want,
But
it's
look at
still
this
so
thing.
hard to make fabric.
Yeah, that thing's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It kind of reminds me of like on a wedding cake, you might see something like
Mhm.
this sculpted out of sugar or something. It looks like you could take it off and eat it. Like
Yeah.
like same thing with this, like overlaying. Like it
I
looks
didn't
like
see
it's
that.
made of cake.
I didn't see that he had like
The
a little bit of a
inscription on
filigree,
there?
an inscription on it.
Yeah, it's
Holy
gorgeous.
crap.
And then the thinness of it that you're getting so much subsurface
Yeah.
like, in the marble is just amazing.
So waxy.
Wait, okay, now I had another question.
So
And this is silly.
yeah, 1855. So we're out of Baroque technically at this point, and I don't remember neoclassicism or something after that. But so what they had like these workshops where it's like an industry of how they would build these sculptures. Not necessarily this one, but like Bernini especially had essentially like tons of apprentices.
Wow.
And so Bernini would be instructing, and they would be making molds of existing sculptures and stuff like that, so that they had a process of creating these things quickly. It still took a long time, but it's like the same thing as an insert mesh brush, where you've got a nose that you like a lot, so you make a mold of the nose, and you put the nose on.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So they
Makes
had,
sense.
they probably didn't. It's
They had
not
a
as
pipeline.
At least on
straightforward
the clay side.
as we anticipate, or sorry,
Yeah.
as primitive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
But-
this was an industry. Like the church was spending so much money on not this one, because this is, I think 1855 was probably past that point, but
Yeah.
but the church was spending so much money on art, and what's the word I'm looking for, where they were patrons of the art essentially, and that's why we have so much religious art But
I got it. So, what is the reference for this? Is someone sitting and waiting
that's a good question.
while he sculpts this, or there's no photographs, right?
I would assume
That's
if they were
before
doing that sort of clay sculpt before, that he would have somebody sit there, maybe do
Or
sketches,
paint.
maybe start to do it.
Did he have a concept?
Uh,
A painting?
Did he have a concept artist? Who's the 2D artist behind this? No, and then he would have a clay version of it, and then he could reference that. And he
so I think
could set things up.
if we get this here, I believe it is actually fan art.
What?
I think we're about to see that this might be fan art. I think it's a pretty popular thing to do, like the veil anyway.
Right.
There are quite a few sculptures that do this. Like we were going to talk about Philippe Farreau's sculpture of this. Yeah, so this is the Veiled Virgin.
Right. But I mean, to
Giovanni
get it so
Strazza.
lifelike, they had to have been looking at it in real life. At least some, right?
I would think so.
Because that's a hard effect to pull off, and if you don't know what it looks like in the real world, then it's going to be almost impossible to do it.
Yeah, 1855. You're probably not looking at a photo.
No.
You don't have your pure ref up.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, true.
So early 1850s.
Okay,
So
so
they're
similar time frame here for that, but there are a lot of like veiled.
Yeah.
But
True.
yeah, I'm guessing Isabel II was.
Based off Isabel the First. Sorry, I can't stop today.
He's on a roll.
I believe she's Spanish, but
This
anyway.
is unbelievable.
That's amazing.
No, I
yeah,
don't
it
know how
is
slow
truly
my
incredible.
internet is, but also the piece.
Oh, yeah, that actually
Definitely
looks like her.
looks
Isabella
just exactly
Skin.
like her for sure.
I mean, the hair and the crown's right.
That's true. Yeah.
Just move that veil over and
Yeah,
done.
got it. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that's what it's based on.
Cool.
Yeah, but always looking at Baroque sculpture is my favorite, and probably part of why I decided to go into character art instead of doing environment stuff to some degree.
It's cool that you're familiar with it that early on.
Yeah.
I thought this would have been after you really dove into ZBrush.
It was, but I mean, I didn't dive into ZBrush thinking like I'm going to be a character artist at that time.
Oh, I see.
I was like,
Introduced to the tool first.
you know, yeah, I was like, I'm going to be an artist. Could be an environment artist. It could be an effects artist or something. And then, yeah.
Do you find yourself still looking back at things like this, or are we completely stuck in the Artstation
I mean,
sphere?
when I'm working on a piece or like just looking for inspiration, not often. I would say not often.
I was kind of thinking about that this week, and like, because I don't, but then I was listening to somebody else talk about looking at the classics and being like, yeah, I learn from the masters all the time. I went, oh, that kind of makes sense.
I think a lot of painters do.
But I feel like we could learn a lot from these sculptures as well, especially like
definitely.
fabric.
For
The
sure.
fabric, I think, is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of painters will do master studies when they are trying to improve their craft, and I think it makes sense to probably try to do master studies as a sculptor. Obviously, it's going to be different if you're not working the same way that they worked, I think, to some degree. But
True.
but even if you're painting in Photoshop, you're not working in the same way that
Yeah.
somebody with
No.
oil paints was working.
You can try to
since
replicate it.
You can color pick.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody's like, "Oh, you shouldn't
Yeah.
color pick." It's like, man, you can color pick. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's 2020.
I've seen some people do like a one layer painting where they have to treat it kind of like just you can only add up and you can't really erase, which I think is really cool, and that kind of sort of replicates like a traditional painting medium.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could do something in ZBrush where you start with a cube and have to sculpt down into a
I
head.
think Dustin was talking about
Like
that.
only a
Just a
subtractive, you
little
know.
chest into the head.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
I don't know if there's any value to it, but
So
we
next
can
week,
try.
next week, Damon's gonna bring in the head sculpt that he did based on just the Dynameshed cube, and we're gonna see how that came out.
I mean, you
Yeah.
could do entirely relief sculpture, but it's not like the masters only did relief sculpture. Like the marble phase was relief, but the clay stage, they definitely added clay. They didn't like start
True.
with a huge block of clay and they're like, "Someone bring me a string." And it's just like, you know, like,
that would be very satisfying though.
yeah.
God.
You're one of those. You like those
I love the
videos on YouTube where it's like
soap
cutting open a cake with the string or
Dude,
whatever.
soap cutting is so satisfying. They score up a bar of soap, like hatchet with a knife, and then like drag the knife across the length of it, and it just like it all crumbles off. It's so nice.
You guys heard it here first.
Let's do it.
Anyways, sorry, completely sidetracked. Sorry about that.
Okay, so yeah, Philippe Farreau. So we have his sculpture here, Child Bride. I'm upset by the name Philippe, but I don't really know what it's about, so I won't judge you.
Social awareness. All right. We're good.
Oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
Cool.
It makes political statements. So
Absolutely. Yeah. But I just love his Leyendecker-esque like half lock folds here. It's so nice, and then still the thinness across the face. I'm sorry that we can't get any closer to this because Philippe has locked down his shit here.
No big images.
But we can zoom in like that.
That works.
Just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous work.
I like the style, like you were saying, the half lock folds. It adds a stylization and like an energy to it.
Yeah. Did Leroy talk about Leyendecker when he was here?
No.
Let's see if I spell this right. Get back to that.
I was gonna spell it Line.
Yeah, he was in that sort of Norman Rockwell era of like the sort of 50s, almost like pop art feeling, highly idealized advertisement paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And J.C. Leyendecker. I think his book is like pretty well referenced.
So Norman Rockwell.
His fold work is just so amazing. It's so crisp.
I've looked at this. Yeah,
I've seen this one
so many times.
His book.
It is like a cool stylized realism look.
Fantastic. Yeah, but you can definitely see in this the influence of Leyendecker in these like sharp folds like that.
It's just cool. Like it just kind of oozes a bit more coolness than when it's all smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a charisma to it.
For sure.
It's nice how he brought it into the background too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Into the hair as well.
Anyway, so more of Philippe. Oh no.
Could be a minute.
That top one is honestly so cool.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but it's really awesome.
Overgrown.
You can get a sense of scale
Schwarzenegger
here too, of like him versus the portrait itself, right?
Are they all that big? You think roughly?
I hope the tantrum one is.
There's a lot of them that are life size, and then there are probably some that are bigger.
Yeah.
Just
his
simply
forms
amazing
read
work.
so well.
Philippe Farreau, again, for those of you who didn't catch it before.
Yeah, I think that's what is reading so well is that it's like the primary forms and then it's like you go straight to tertiary. It's like there are some really subtle secondaries in there.
Well, we got secondary on anything that there's an expression on, right? You're seeing the secondary in here. You're seeing the nasolabial folds and stuff here.
I was gonna say that he doesn't go into tertiary. Like he doesn't do skin pores or wrinkles. Or I mean, like
he may. We're just
micro
not
wrinkles.
Seeing it very closely.
Yeah, I think there's something
okay.
And I think it depends on like the character, right?
Yeah.
So he's like very few secondary forms on these young women, but then we have these sort of more intensified or not really the right word, but it's all exaggerated. All of it is like just slightly characterized, right?
Right. But he isn't spending time on pores specifically, which is what I've been obsessing over lately. So it's like seeing that, I'm like, I should.
That's like last step, man.
Yeah, I know.
You can get away with not even doing it sometimes too, as we can see here from some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But he's just awesome. He has figure sculpting as well.
How did you come across his stuff?
So one of my mentors, Rich Diamant, who was at Naughty Dog at the time we were talking, and now is at Riot. Showed these to me and our class, and we were using it as a reference for anatomy sculpture. He has several books, especially these female male torso sculptures.
Oh, I've seen that female torso before.
I'm sure you have. Sure. Yeah, like he's got full rotations of these in his books that you can look at. Definitely recommend his books. They're on the expensive side, kind of, but they're nice, hardcover. They're huge. There's a ton of stuff in it. Not only does it have like technique, but just high quality images of the artwork as well.
Yeah. When you say technique, it's traditional sculpture technique, but
but
would you be able to read it and pull things and apply that to
definitely
digital?
Yeah, because it's still the same idea. It's you're adding clay, you're removing clay, you're creating planes, right? Yeah, and that's the big thing is like plane separation here and where to soften the forms and where to keep them harder and all of that to try to achieve this idealized look in this instance. But some of these are a lot more interesting. Like this is still somewhat idealized, but he's a little bit scrawnier,
Yep. Yeah, it really speaks to the fact that like foundations cross mediums.
This cat.
Oh my god! So,
it's interesting how this cat is very like impressionistic compared to everything else.
Well, this one as well is just it feels like a different artist.
Yeah. It almost does. Yeah.
It's cool though when an artist has that kind of range and breadth in their work. It's refreshing.
But he's got a lot
bronze,
of.
Is that John? Is that a bronze?
This? Yeah, it might be. He does have bronze work.
Bronze work's awesome.
It is. It's expensive to get made.
One of my sculpture teacher at Noman, his name's John Brown, and he does a lot of bronze stuff. And he brought in one of them one time, and I was blown away. It's got so much. It just because it's a different material read. Yeah. It just brings a little bit something different to it. And
so you can see in this one
the patina
on the bronze here, you can actually see the tertiary detail on this.
Yeah, you're right.
But I feel like she's hatching out of an egg.
Oh,
that's what I'm reading into this.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's a cool material too.
It's kind of like you just threw on a mat cap to me, but it is very cool.
Yeah,
well, seeing it in real life is awesome.
Yeah. It's so interesting that how much I see this as an inspiration for James Cain, like the up to the right a little bit, the Mariner.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like 100% something that
it looks like his Scooby-Doo sculpt. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. James Cain is awesome.
He's so good.
I love his work. I want to get a print of the death watching over the. Did you guys pull that up?
No.
We'll find it. We'll find it later. But
we'll have it in the show notes or something.
Let's just.
Yeah. Just pull it up.
We'll pull it up, but first we're gonna talk about.
So Jason, who painted this one?
Gee. Yeah. Okay. This was. What was his name? Pyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Howard Pyle. I thought it was NC Wyeth, and I was wrong. But it was NC Wyeth's instructor, Howard Pyle, who was part of the Brandywine School, which I guess is this sort of like almost comic book-esque style of the 1900s, early 1900s. But I just love the color here.
It's beautiful.
I wish I could get an original of this and put it on my wall, but I can't imagine how expensive it would be.
What do you mean when you say the rhythm? What do you
mean? That line of action that the sail creates then hits it's a zigzag of the wave to the sail to
down
the boat.
Here from the top of this galleon down into the sail and then down across again. Or if you're looking up, you're doing that, right? Which is even better.
Gosh, it's so cool.
You're just like grabbing all this stuff with your eyes. You're like gobbling it up.
Yeah.
You can get the sun over here setting.
I was recently talking with one of my friends who's an animator, and he was talking about how when they go to plan out the motion of a scene, a lot of times they'll draw out a simple stroke, like a line of action that the scene is going to follow, and then everything follows that arc, and it just creates rhythm and motion that you wouldn't be able to do if you were to or you would be able to do, but it'd be harder to do just off of nothing.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering if, like, at the beginning of this, if he started with that little zigzag and was like, that's what I'm going to base this off of, or if it's just something he found along the way.
I wouldn't be surprised if he started that way. I wouldn't be surprised if he started with a bunch of thumbnails, right? And then, like, the thumbnails were so quick, he's just, like, scribbling, on these tiny little drawings, and probably settle on this one after a few tries. But.
Right.
What you just said reminded me of we were talking about improv like art improv games where I was saying for a while, like I'll sketch every morning, and when I wanted to just like, if I didn't have something I wanted to sketch, I would just put like 3 dots on the page and then draw something that connects those. Or, I mean, likewise, you could do some kind of like light, especially if you have one of those markers, like the Copic markers, just do sort of that, like make a cloud and then find, see what you see in it and carve it out of that.
It kind of sounds like Anthony Jones, like sketching exercises. Have you done any of those?
I haven't, but
where you have to like draw 3 points and then make a Bezier curve that follows it.
Yeah.
Or like
that's pretty cool.
An ellipse or something.
I mean, all of these points go to just speaking about how the primitives are what build up the masterpiece that we see here, with the faces as well. That it's just the simple zigzag that makes this whole piece.
Yeah. Well, especially if you so we were done talking about Philippe Farreau, but go watch his YouTube videos. Like, for real. Also, he does sculpture seminars in Honeyway, New York. So if you're in upstate New York, go.
Yeah.
He does like 2 a year. It's amazing. He's French. He smokes. He's an amazing artist. Watch his video tutorials.
I can smell and hear that right now, and I want to be there.
It's he can create a face in like 5 minutes because he has it down to a formula, right? Like, and how often when you're sitting down and sculpting something do you actually like go and follow a formula? Not enough. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I'll start something different every time. So check these out for sure, folks. They're amazing.
Sculpting
We're not gonna do
the
it
aging
now,
process.
Hopefully your
I'm gonna watch
better.
the hell out of
these are amazing.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Especially if you really like sculpting faces and you're not working for a studio that does scan pipeline. Where you need to start from scratch. Like, definitely.
Or just understanding the forms better. If you're a character artist, you're gonna want this. Any artist.
Super cool.
One last thing I was thinking on the attack on Galleon, one of the things that came up when we were talking to Leroy was how many of the sculptures that he had brought in have this, like, every part of the sculpture was alive, and like it was these sculptures within sculptures and these dragons with just exquisite ornate kind of scales, and every scale has its own story, and that this painting feels similar in certain ways where it's like every piece of the wave has its own essence. And I think that just makes me think of, okay, when I'm rendering something right now with our normal workflow, it's like, okay, you take that nice Artstation render and then you throw in like the dark background and maybe a little fog or something. But that last part of the process we usually just toss together so quickly. And in some ways you could say that, well, the focus then is just on the thing that you actually spent the time on, but there is the rest of the canvas that we're not utilizing. And I feel like,
but I mean, like, look at this, right? Like, yes, the wave has a lot of detail going on here, but it's impressionistic, it's quick. Like, a lot of this stuff, like the anatomy here is not super intense. This entire section is just like some brown paint,
but there was attention paid in each part. And I guess what I'm saying is that when I throw together that last render, I'm not actually even thinking about what 90% of the canvas has on it, because the focus is just on that. Where even if you were just covering it in black, you're still thinking, okay, I am focusing on making this part of the painting this way.
There's intention to let it slip into the background instead of just like ignoring it, is basically.
You just don't think about it. You just, like, you throw in the black layer in Photoshop and it just automatically makes most of your piece whatever color automatically comes out of that. Based on whatever gradients are over it.
Like, 3D character art specifically is such a different medium that if you want to try to make a whole background for your character, you're kind of wasting your time.
Yeah, but I'm not saying you need to. I just think that
it's
you could think about it.
Yeah,
I just don't think about the background.
Well, you okay. Well, let's get back to this later, because I can probably show you some examples of current artists that are working with ZBrush that sort of do what you're talking about.
Cool.
And then here is NC Wyeth.
Yeah.
I just love his work because it's mostly figure-based, very interesting posing. Always great pose reference from NC Wyeth if you're looking for pose reference for your characters. This guy's just got so much attitude.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Look at him.
Has a 3D version of that been done? Because I want to do it.
Hey, Damon's claiming it.
I want to do it.
Go ahead, add it to your Pinterest board.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah, have the date on there and everything. Timestamp.
The costuming is also really cool.
Yeah, he's almost got some exagerated anatomy in there too.
It almost feels weird calling it a costume because that's like that guy's everyday
This is what I
clothes.
wear every day.
That's what he wears.
Yeah, but this was probably sketched based on someone wearing a costume.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You probably wasn't drawing a real pirate.
Yeah.
Can you just hold tight
Maybe.
for 1 second?
And
So
so
plunder that ship.
This is Billy Bones, so it's specifically about Treasure Island. I was about to say Treasure Planet, and I was like, that is
Yes,
not
dude.
correct. Great movie.
best.
That's not correct.
That came up during our first show and tell too.
I love
That's one of
Treasure
the pieces.
Planet.
It's so good.
It's the most underrated Disney movie.
I like how if I cover up his face, his whole like kind of tummy and the big belt buckle just looks like Santa Claus.
He does a
Sure,
little bit, yeah.
It's like he's scouting out where his reindeer are gonna take him tonight.
But he's Billy Bones.
But he's taking gifts instead of giving them.
That's right.
And that's his whole bag of gifts over the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that that's cape, right?
I
The cape
think so.
billowing
It
in the
just
wind.
feels like very
Yeah.
like wide.
It's just it's such a cool graphic.
Billowy cape.
I used to do that with back when I was drawing a lot. I would just take like a circle or a square or triangle and just like plop it behind the character to like make it. It almost adds like a 3D.
Oh, like a
to
graphical element.
a graphical shape
Sure.
behind it.
Yeah.
He's doing it in a way that like it's actually kind of grounded in the character, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it's a part of
Right.
him, but it's
But
still simple.
if we're looking at this render of this character, there's a background there, but you know the focus is here.
Yep.
It's a subtle background, but yeah, I think it is worth thinking of something like that. A lot of character art challenges will have you do some sort of base or something like that, and you'll get a texture set for your base, and so this is NCY's base here for
Yeah.
Cool though.
for Billy Bones.
And I think nowadays, because we have so many tools to do detail and like to do crazy high res stuff, if you were given the task to do a base, some people go like crazy on it and go overboard. When you really just need a really simple rock that has very little detail,
right,
that acts as just a stage.
Your sci-fi base, you create a quarter of it and then you rotate it around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw a
Exactly.
base mesh skull in there and good to go.
Yeah. Just sitting on top of a giant
Billy Bones.
skull rock. What was this? Oh,
You can't forget.
Paul Bonner. It's fucking amazing. We don't have to spend too much time on this, but if you guys have not heard of Paul Bonner,
Yeah.
please,
I've seen that one.
please
I know
look
I have.
up Paul Bonner. It's just like, I love fantasy art, so this is
Me too.
it for me. Like I don't know if he ever did D&D artwork, but
It feels
He
so
could.
D&D, man.
it feels like it, but it's not. It's like a different man. Pinterest, you're failing me today.
Yeah, Pinterest is not
Guys,
doing it.
Paul Bonner doesn't have a website, so I'm really sorry about that. Somebody made a 3D sculpture of that. That's pretty good.
Sweet.
Just these really exaggerated forms for these like dwarven characters. I love it so much, and the rendering is gorgeous. And hey, that background's fine.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. Well, and
You
that's
really don't need much.
I think that actually is exactly the point I'm trying to make, is that it can be completely simple. It could just be one color, but just consider every pixel of it, right? Just think about
Like
what you're
he's
actually
clearly
creating.
like put some strokes down.
Yeah,
here
he
before
actually
started
thought
working
about
on
the
that.
whole thing corner to corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have his book, and his book is the only art book I have that I have come back to like more than twice.
I feel that. What do you go back to it for?
I just love it so much. I have to look at it. Like, I want to do a lot of pieces that look like this in 3D. Like,
Yeah.
I always want to. I never do, but I want to. Gavin did one. Looks amazing. If you guys haven't seen it, for his game project that he was working on.
It's awesome.
I think it's funny that we're seeing some Joe Mad stuff pop up because obviously Joe Mad has been inspired by Paul Bonner. Even though he has this sort of more manga style, there's still that inspiration there.
So let me clarify my question from earlier. When you go back to that Paul Bonner book, is it you're in a project and you're thinking like, I want to do this thing, oh, Paul Bonner did that thing, and so you go back to the book for that, or you're just sitting kind of out of a void. You're like, I want to look at that book again.
Both things.
Both?
Yeah.
Cool. That's a good book then.
Because like I sculpt D&D characters sometimes, and I'm just like, you know what? The armor set I'm thinking of is definitely in there, and then I find it, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, this I have to incorporate something from this somehow. Like boar riding dwarf with a cool ass sword that's taller than he is.
Yeah.
Look at his big ass nose.
I need to make my character cooler now.
Yeah, but I absolutely love his work, and Pinterest is failing me today, but
it's awesome.
Yeah.
I really like the way he does. Oh, never mind.
What? Which one?
I was gonna say I really like the way he does this like blank squares. It was cool.
These?
No, it was when it was loading in. I was making a bad
He's
joke.
making another bad joke.
Good one. Good job.
Pinterest coming in clutch. Yeah, it's always a good reminder to see his stuff.
So we can look at Gavin's really quick.
I'd love to. I've heard of this guy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. You
yeah.
guys might have heard of him.
Quite prolific recently. Seems to be.
You can see
getting into his D&D stuff.
Bonner inspiration in Gavin's work for sure.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection.
Me neither.
Very Bonner-esque and
so cool.
absolutely lovely.
Yeah. Great work, Gav.
Yeah, man.
Good job, Gav. This is how old?
3 years ago.
3 years old.
Jeez.
Still amazing.
Yep.
Gavin, your work. Look at that. Chubby. Chubby boy.
Oof, well, you just said like
he has the most ripped serratus muscles, and then he's got the bags on the
abs.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
He's
Such a cool
just
combo.
constantly lifting and not really doing a lot of good eating. That's the problem.
Yeah, you're right.
He's got some gut issue. Something in there.
He does
So
not do
cool,
well
though.
in the kitchen. All right, so are we gonna jump into Artstation, or what do we?
You guys want to take a look at Ian Spriggs'
why don't we-
thing?
Why don't we do that one? I think that's the next episode.
All right, so this has been everywhere. Even penetrated the front page of Reddit.
Not a good enough reason to use the word penetrate.
I've seen it everywhere.
For every excuse.
I'm sure everybody's been penetrated by this at least once. This is Ian Spriggs. He's one of the best 3D portraiture artists in the business. I feel like he's one of the only ones who's truly hitting the level of like photorealism. Like him and maybe Chris Costa. Chris Costa, yeah, they're both on the level of like, sometimes it's like you can tell when something's CG, but there are times when I look at something like that and I'm like, yeah, the line is very, very thin.
That's a hard line to meet and not cross over like horribly.
Yeah. So this is one of the ones that he put out recently. It's a self-portrait of himself. Wait, it's a self-portrait. And I just wanted to take a look at it and get your guys' thoughts on it, because while I think it's amazing and really cool, I'm not very much a technically oriented artist. But the amount of technical work that has to go into this to create something like this, I figured would be something in more your guys' wheelhouse.
It's really interesting.
That's
You
Jayson.
look at the jacket here. Like, this looks like a scanned jacket. I don't know if either of you have looked at scanned clothing, but this is what generally, once you've like cleaned up a scanned asset, looks like. But I'm guessing he did not do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
It's crazy. Like. And to think, like, the detail here doesn't really look as, like, intense as you would normally, like, especially for these wrinkles and stuff. I've seen a lot of artists get really noodly with that kind of wrinkle.
Right.
And
It's a good point.
He did a good job of not getting too intense in here and leaving it what the material would look like, and letting the fabric pattern and the BRDF of the cloth sort of make that feel real. That one's taking me out of it.
Yeah.
But as far as everything else, like the face and the eyes, are so well done. Yeah, you can sort of get that X-Gen feel here, right? It's really hard to get hairlines looking good.
It is tough.
But it's so subtle here that it's hard to tell. Like, It's amazing.
I think
amazing work.
when it comes to the hair, the beard and mustache stands out to me.
Right there.
That one,
Yeah.
The beard and the mustache stand out to me as a very successful take on hair, because hair is one of the hardest things.
Absolutely.
But
I would say that
nailed that.
Beards and facial hair are actually trickier than a full head of hair.
Yeah.
Because you look at game art specifically, it is very difficult to find a good-looking beard in game art.
It's true. It's true.
It is hard to find.
Yeah.
I think that Ready at Dawn, what's the game that they made?
The Order 1886?
The Order stuff did a great job. That was, sorry. I don't remember his name. It was epic. Now, great artist. Anyway. Yeah. Gorgeous work.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this is Arnold.
Yes.
Do.
No, I think he's using GPU.
So many comments.
Does Arnold have GPU yet?
V-Ray.
Yeah.
It's V-Ray. Similar.
Yeah.
Similar.
But V-Ray does have GPU stuff now.
That's really cool.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's nice.
And the process GIF is really cool too, because he works differently than I've ever thought or seen, in that he starts with a base mesh that's rigged, poses it, and then he does everything on top of that, instead of sculpting from symmetry for a while on a neutral pose mesh, and then posing it later and fixing.
Well, if you're only going to use it for this shot, right? Like, yeah, it's got this rotation here a little bit, but it's not going to animate. You're not trying to show that it would animate. There's no reason to sculpt it as if it could animate.
It's true,
right? Like,
but essentially, it's like even when I'm doing just personal work and stuff, I still start with symmetry because it cuts my workload in half for at least the initial stages, right?
Sure.
Whereas with something like this, now you have twice the work because you got to do the same thing on both sides.
As long as the mesh is posable, you can still use. As long as the mesh is symmetrical, you'd use posable symmetry.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true.
So he might use that. He may not. But I mean, this piece is so asymmetrical that starting with symmetry, I think, would actually be a hindrance.
It could be, yeah. That's a good point.
Faces are so asymmetrical. Yeah, getting the rough forms in first, you probably want symmetry, but he starts with a base mesh that already has
it's pretty close.
The majority of the forms set in, so he's really sculpting that.
Right.
Those secondary and tertiary forms, and adjusting the big shapes on the primary forms here. If you look at his base mesh, it is pretty simple, actually.
Yeah.
But it does at least have the right landmarks. It has a skull that, feels like the head has a skull. All that kind of stuff. This is really interesting to me, is this this base mesh of the jacket.
The jacket base mesh?
Yeah. Sculpting with thickness on.
So is it? I thought maybe he.
Oh, yeah.
I thought maybe he would do a Marvelous sim
on
to get the base, but it doesn't look like he did.
No,
it looked like he just sculpted into it.
Sculpted. It also looks like Mudbox.
It is Mudbox.
Fuck.
Have you guys used Mudbox at all?
Yeah.
No,
is it a pain?
It started with Mudbox.
What's the differences between that and ZBrush?
Okay, well, Mudbox has a real camera, which is cool.
Oh, that is
cool. I think
does it have the same cameras as Maya?
Maya, yes. Yeah,
cool.
Sorry. ZBrush does have a real camera now, but it's still not the same. It's a weird...
It's like a faux dynamic perspective camera.
Right. This has an actual perspective camera. You can set it up to be like exactly the same as your render scene in Maya. The brushes are similar. They now have an equivalent of Sculptress Pro, so you can at least use that.
Oh, that's cool.
But I mean, if you're starting with really good base meshes that can be subdivided nicely, like this appears to be, I don't see the downside in using it. It's not an amazing piece of software. I don't think ZBrush necessarily is the most friendly software.
Yeah.
Right. Mudbox, I think, is way easier to use out of the box. super simple. It's not, if you know how to use Maya, you know how to use Mudbox.
Interesting.
Right.
Would you say that as far as just sculpting goes, it has the same capabilities as ZBrush? I mean, the results speak for themselves, but like...
Not entirely, but like, what else do you need? Like, it has the base set of core things that you need to sculpt. I don't think it has the concept of an insert mesh brush necessarily. It may. I don't remember. It may have been added after I stopped using it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of other softwares that are popping up now, like Blender. I keep hearing about Blender sculpting stuff, and people are doing some really cool stuff in that now too.
Looks pretty good.
So I think it's going to be interesting. ZBrush is such a monopoly, such a lock right now.
Well, the irony there being that Mudbox existed before ZBrush.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know
was
the history
created.
of all, but...
ZBrush was created as like a 2.5D solution.
Yeah, it wasn't even supposed
and everyone's
to...
like, "Oh, hey, I can sculpt with this," and they're like, "Oh, yeah. You can." We should market
will
that.
you pay us for it? Yeah, okay, we'll go in that direction.
Yeah. I'm really curious about his rig setup.
Man, just seeing the level of like micro adjustment at each step, it's so like the eye that he has trained to get that is really inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, man, because while you guys have been talking, I've just been thinking about how, like, to me, this isn't... I have massive respect for the ability that this guy has, but I also look at it and just say, like, okay, so he just got what a photo can get? Like, what's so amazing about the artistic property of it? Not just how insanely hard it was to make.
I mean,
but what I think you just said was what you just talked about with how his eye must be trained in order to actually get it to look that way. It's well timed.
Yeah.
That is really, really impressive to me.
Yeah. But I mean, imagine, years ago, getting something...
A GPU render is so nice.
I know, right? Years ago, getting something 10% as realistic as this is the best that people could do. But now we have people pushing it to this level, and it's only a matter of time before this level starts to trickle down into things like games, things like movies, things like, the media that we consume. So when I see something like this that's going kind of beyond the level of realism that anybody else has done, I start thinking about, I can't wait until we start getting characters like that in our games.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see what this looks like when it moves.
I mean, it's probably...
So you guys...
you're right.
You guys have seen the Blade Runner 2049?
Yeah.
2022, 20...
Yes.
2049.
2049.
Yeah, that's the one.
So they completely CG'd the character that was an actress from the first movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which they've done in a couple Star Wars movies now, too.
Oh, those look
Those are bad.
bad. Yeah. So the Moff Tarkin one especially, I think, is ironic because there's fan art of Moff Tarkin that another artist did on Artstation around the same time that the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it may have been much earlier, but it's amazing. And then you look at the one in the movie and you're like, yeah. Interesting. And a lot of that comes down to the artist not necessarily having full control over that. It's a massive studio. There are a lot of that's not it. There are a lot of factors at play when you're working on something like that, right? The art director's opinion is more important than the artist's. All of that kind of thing sort of come together to create. That's why I was sort of annoyed by everyone posting the deep fake videos compared to The Irishman.
Right.
Like, yeah, the deep fake may look better, but you're applying the deep fake to the work that ILM already did.
Right. I got that same impression when I watched that video.
So I think this is it. This might be it. I don't know if he has the full render. I don't know if this is it. But there's just a gorgeous, realistic render of Grand Moff Tarkin out there somewhere.
Huh.
I'm surprised it's not showing up here.
Which I will find. This might be it, actually. This is very stylized.
Yeah,
very
super stylized.
But honestly, I would rather see something like this than like... I don't know why, but I would.
I think it's because the one in the movie, it just didn't quite hit it.
Yeah.
That you're almost like, well, I'd rather them try. You can tell that they were trying to hit perfect realism, right? But they didn't quite. So when you see something that isn't trying to hit perfect realism, but is hitting,
it's uncanny valley.
It's hitting something different, better. You're almost like, yeah, I'd rather do that because that's actually accomplishing the goal that it's set out to do.
Right.
Yes. And that's the stuff that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, yeah, just coming back to this, I'm also thinking of like my artistic motivation to do something like this is nil. I mean, there's no, and that's probably what's more interesting to me is that you guys actually might think like, oh man, it would be so cool to have. Yeah, I want to play the game where this is pushing the limits so that the games we play are more amazing. But in terms of what I would want to do as an artist, dude, this is like, I just have no interest in trying to capture something that already exists.
I want to be able to do that level of detail on a character of my own concept. That's where I get inspired by. Like, I don't want to do a self-portrait, and I don't want to do a portrait of just a random person who exists. But if I could do that level of skin detail on, you know, a warrior from World of Warcraft that I'm sculpting, or something like that, you know, some fantasy cool thing that I am interested in, then I'm excited.
And you can take it back to like, if you can do this, then you can do this.
Yep.
And you can do this.
Yeah.
Right, which this still has a lot of style to it, right?
Yeah.
It looks realistic, but this to me is interesting because I, as someone who is very interested in the technical aspects of rendering and how we achieve this kind of stuff, like, I love the idea of sort of a taking the concept out of it, taking the, like, clearly he has put some thought into like posing and placement of himself here and like how we are reading him as a person.
Yeah.
And that's definitely part of it. But it's not like we're worrying about like, does this character look like they would be a sword fighter or a Jedi or whatever you're making, whatever the hell. But just trying to achieve the visual fidelity of this. Like the amount of time that it probably took, the amount of detail, like the detail-oriented person that you have to be able to see what needs to change.
Yeah.
And not only that, understanding your renderer well enough to be able to achieve something like this. And then you can go on to do probably pretty amazing things with that understanding, that knowledge. Yep. Like you need to apply hair to a character that is a Jedi or whatever the hell. And now you can do that and it looks great, right?
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of benefit to doing this. I would essentially say is a study, right? A self-portrait has been for thousands of years a study, right? Where you are learning from that, and that's what he's doing here. Is he's, I mean, he has other portraits that are absolutely amazing,
right?
And that seems to be his thing. Really great portrait work.
I love that one with the guy and all the different
that one's
patches.
So cool.
That was the first piece I ever saw by him.
Yeah, I think that's the first one that caught my eye too.
Yeah, we can start looking at his out studio stuff. Which is nuts. So clearly he's got this was the first one I saw from him, Portrait of Heidi.
But it's cool because he did a self-portrait way back when too. It's the fourth one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and to
cool
see them side by side.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Okay, that's really cool.
But it's funny because, like he says here in the description, self-portrait inspired by classical paintings, and I've seen him mention that a lot. That like his portrait work is very much he's trying to replicate the ideas and feelings that classical portrait painters like Rembrandt and stuff did. But he's bringing it to the modern technological landscape, which is super cool to see.
Yeah, you can see he's got the Rembrandt lighting in here. We have this triangle underneath of the eye. It's not 3-point, but you do have a little bit of rim coming up here. Like Rembrandt's lighting is absolutely gorgeous, and he's definitely done a good job of replicating it. Even in this, like this clearly is deeper in the valley, right? A little bit.
But
But it's still Still good work.
Still good, and I think it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And using Mudbox.
So yeah, look at the beard in comparison. It's crazy different.
Yeah.
To be fair, maybe his beard was patchy.
Yeah, maybe he had a shitty beard.
I don't know if it is cards. It might be X-Gen. It might be cards. It does kind of look like cards.
Yeah, I don't know if you could. I mean, rendering something like that, because that was before GPU. That was before a lot of the stuff that makes the workflow faster now.
You can still render X-Gen without the GPU, but yeah, I mean, it's not as fast to render.
Right.
Sure.
But if you had every strand, it might take forever.
Might take a little while. Yeah, I'm not really sure the intensity of it. It depends, because like you could set it to the hair shader, and then while you're testing it. For your final render, and then while you're testing it, you could just use like a Lambert or something at least to make sure that the forms are reading right.
That's true.
Or just like a blend with an ISO on it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
A lot of different ways. This inspires me. I kind of want to do a pre-rendered like an Arnold character now because of this.
Yeah, I've been learning some Arnold stuff. It's actually pretty easy to use.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about that at some point, because it's free, comes with Maya.
Yeah.
And
well, assuming you have Maya.
That's true.
It comes with the studio version of Maya.
That's
for
true.
Free.
But you don't have to spend you don't have to spend extra stuff on V-Ray and stuff like that. But it seems like it can get results, like real results.
Yeah. And
for it being native to Maya, I'm like all about that.
Yeah, Arnold renders look pretty good. The out of the box skin shaders actually not bad at all.
Oh yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it makes working with displacement really easy.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out, because games are starting to head in that direction of being much more filmic.
Yeah.
So the more that you understand about an offline renderer, the better you're going to be able to understand what physically based rendering in games will become over the next few years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you can understand the difference between a linear texture and an sRGB texture, you're already halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So for those of you who don't know, linear is sort of 0 to 1. It's what the computer is reading to create an image that I'm not going to do a good job of explaining this, but essentially your monitor cannot output to you what your eyes see.
Mm-hmm.
And that linear image is more in respect to what your eye sees. The computer monitor applies a gamma curve to the image in order to replicate an idea of what your eye might see.
Yeah.
Right? So
like I've always taken it as like linear is closer to a 1-to-1 of what is intended.
Right.
And then sRGB is like taking a Snapchat filter and throwing it on top so that it looks prettier to our eye on the screen.
Kind of, yeah.
So
you could call it that.
in certain instances, like,
sRGB Snapchat filter.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
But in certain instances, you don't want a filtered version of a file or a texture. You need the actual 1-to-1.
Like a normal map should always be linear.
Yep.
And bump map, anything like that.
Right.
Your glossiness is probably linear.
Yeah. Versus anything that has to do with like actual color information, typically you'd go at sRGB, correct?
Yeah, because you're in your DCC, you probably made it with sRGB on, and you're trying to match those sRGB colors. So you want the renderer, basically when you're marking it, specifically in Maya, if you're marking it as sRGB, you're saying don't apply the gamma correction to this.
Yep.
Right, and then if you're marking it as raw or linear, then you're saying please apply my gamma correction.
Yeah.
Give me a nice pretty image.
Yeah.
But
remove Snapchat filter.
Exactly.
Remove
Snapchat filter.
No puppy ears for this render. Or RGB vomit.
So anyway, yeah, big shout out to Ian Spriggs, because I'm constantly inspiring me.
Yeah,
constantly.
Really great work.
Yeah, and also it's been said before, but there's the one of I forget his name, the guy in the white shirt.
Scott.
Yeah, Scott Eaton.
Gosh,
the fact that he reverse engineered the guy's skull. That's just like, come on, dude. You're pushing us. That's Wacky Town, but I also love it.
What do you mean by that?
I believe he figured out that's actually Scott Eaton's skull that Scott Eaton is holding.
Whoa.
Because he'd used, I think, I don't know if he says it here, But he said something like
Since Scott Eaton chose anatomy as a career, I thought it was suitable that he holds a skull, not just any skull, but his own skull in his hands. I did a reverse forensics from his head to create the skull.
Yeah. Using tissue depth and everything, he measured in. And when you were talking about the way they do sculpture, the marble sculptures, how they have all those measurements, he did the same thing to figure out what this guy's skull looked like.
Okay, that's cool.
I think, right there. He's got the little sticks that measure it.
Is this software that you can... This is probably just rendered in Maya or Mudbox or something,
Maybe.
But he probably had these places. Oh yeah, so you have these median points and bilateral points, and it's like the depth, total weighted mean. Okay, interesting. So if you place those around, then you can get the various. I'm sure that takes a lot of time, but holy shit, that's cool.
Isn't that insane? Like that's what I'm saying is like taking that level of understanding of what a human looks like and how a human works, and then applying that to some fantastical crap that's just cool and sci-fi or whatever. You're gonna get some next level stuff.
This really does look like a master painting. Like this looks like a painting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Especially
has that quality
in the eyes.
Yeah.
The softness of the hair, like it feels like a painting. It's
gorgeous.
Super well done.
I love this one.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's crazy good. We're all just oogling it at your work.
That's why I want to talk about him, because he's got so much to learn from. There's just he's so deep, the level of work that he does.
Where to
awesome
next,
stuff.
folks?
Did you have anything you want to show, or can I just pop open?
No.
I'm gonna jump in here. I actually didn't even look through these that much, but this one caught my eye on Artstation today. And I guess the reason why I wanted to talk about it actually was not so much about this piece, but sort of my reaction to it. Where I saw this, I was like, man, this is so cool. I wish I could drop into this environment and like just run around and see what's happening. Like, what are these vehicles? I want to squelch my boots in the mud and hear what these guys are chanting. And yeah, we could talk about the artistic qualities of this piece too, but what it made me think then was, again, I've just been thinking a lot about like, what does this artistic piece actually accomplish, right? And I've been looking at Banksy's things recently, and he had this piece that he did last week for Valentine's Day, and I've always just really loved Banksy because he is really, there's this very distinct reason that he's creating this art, right? It's like, I'm going to use this to say a specific message. And he tries to, like, the way that I think about it when I'm looking at pictures now is like, yeah, the picture tells 1,000 words, but the artist doesn't always get to decide what those words are.
Yeah.
And what I think Banksy does really well is that he chooses very, very specific things to show so that he can choose as many of those 1,000 words as possible, so that he can send as clear a message as possible in our visual medium. And yeah, I think this one just plays with, you know, the idea of innocence and violence, and there's a lot that you could read into it there. But
yeah,
the final place that I kind of wanted to take this is that I was reading about it recently because like 2 days after it went up, it was vandalized. Somebody like spray painted across it, and then Banksy made this post showing some of the sketches and saying, so he said, "I'm kind of glad the piece in Barton Hill got vandalized. The initial sketch was a lot better." And I thought that was so cool. Like, first of all, that's like, yeah, go you, Banksy. Like, you're always gonna find a way to just make the baller comment. But you also get sort of this window into somebody who is considered a master, and even them going like, oh, man, yeah, this sketch did have like better, you know, it's a little more dynamic, the lighting plays maybe
especially
cooler.
If he's going from like thumbnail sketch to like 4 feet tall on a wall, right?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of translation there, but
yeah.
it's just interesting that, like, I don't think he was just saying that to kind of like brush it off and be like, nah, like, I don't even care what you did. I think he might have really meant that, and just to know, again, as that reminder of like, oh yeah, even the great people have their good art and their bad art, so to speak, right?
They're great because they're still critical of themselves. Like you have to be.
Yeah.
If you can't make it farther if you think that what you're doing now is the best perfect thing, you know.
Just always finding ways to improve.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if did he post the vandalization on
He did not
here?
post it there.
Just more of the
I actually hadn't even scrolled through those. I know he didn't post it on his
sketch.
Instagram.
I'm not gonna lie here. I don't really think Banksy's a good artist. I think he's like really heavy-handed. Like if the artist is forcing you into this vision like so strongly, it's like it's almost boring to me at that point when it becomes like, here's the exact message I was trying to send to you, and then it removes you from unless the message is so universal or like throughout all of history. Like, okay, maybe let's say you make a piece right now that's specifically about something Trump is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you could, it looks like you've got Trump actually in the shot or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yes, a historian may find this interesting several hundred years from now, but it may not be seen as like, wow, what an amazing art piece.
Yeah.
Sure, and I'm not even saying that his art necessarily. I think it's cool, but I think he's not like the most technically proficient artist on the planet. What I think is cool is that he's choosing these topics that do tend to be at least there's a pretty clear like good and evil in the things that he does. It's not just like, I think he will sometimes make statements that are pretty politically motivated, but for the most part it's like, you know, like really bad genocides or something that most people would agree on, and he's just making a statement about that part. So I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but
yeah, I mean, I guess so. Like, it just, to me, like Banksy, I think the overwhelming like public eye on his work has shifted it from being interesting to me to being like a street artist that is trying to say something to like a famous street artist that is trying not to fuck up his existing legacy, right?
Interesting.
Like,
really, I think that he's still probably just trying to use his platform to get important messages out.
I
think that's what's so cool
but
about
it's
it.
maybe I'm too cynical to believe
to
that.
Yeah, see, I'm not.
I think
you could be right.
Something like the messages that he was trying to convey maybe when he wasn't world renowned versus the messages that he's trying to convey now. It might be interesting to see what they would have been had he not been discovered. If he had kept just making art kind of underground, maybe they would have been a lot different. I don't know, and I don't have an opinion one way or another on that, but like he has to probably think a little bit about like, everyone's gonna see what I'm doing here, so you gotta have a little bit more of a carefulness to it.
It depends so much on the person.
I can't imagine.
I think it depends a lot on who he is, because there is definitely a consistency between the type of art and the themes he was talking about before and after he was famous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's not trying to sell this, right? So he doesn't necessarily have like maybe he's just doing it for the likes now. But there are plenty of people out there who have figured out how to not do it. He's not trying to sell it for money. He doesn't have an audience in that same classical way. So maybe he is just doing it for the likes at this point, but I don't think so. And I guess we can't really answer that for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I thought that was a cool piece.
It's still interesting, yeah.
And again, just like thinking about the sketches. And
I was actually,
process.
when I first looked at that piece, I was like, I wonder if he sketches that in a sketchbook. And then when you flipped over, I was like, oh shit.
There it is.
There it is.
Question answered.
It's cool.
What did you guys think about this piece?
I see Mike Francino's work.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of his personal stuff that he's been working on.
Yeah.
Probably just the like overt religious symbolism combined with like the machinery and the sort of ritual that's going on down there. Yeah. And the mood of it too, that dark, like gritty sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
This is inspired by the books of Dmitry Glukovsky. So
it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of anything that can convey a world in one shot.
Yeah,
because
that's such a good way to put it, man. That's what I like about
I've always been such a figurative artist that all I typically have to present is a character, and it's hard to convey a world with one character. Whereas when you can do some character work, some vehicle work, some landscape work, like all of it together as a cohesive idea, that's the kind of stuff that always strikes me.
You can almost see this already as like a Mad Max sequel, where like, you know, there's some religious zealot that travels around with his convoy here. Oh, what's in that box? What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I don't know what's in the box.
Which box?
Right.
I didn't even see it until you pointed it out.
On the box here.
He's got a box.
Yeah, they're carrying that box somewhere. Who knows?
An important box.
Who knows what it is?
It's just one glass of water.
Very nice wine. It's
Oh,
all
yeah,
on
it is a
everything.
Yeah, I think it's
cool.
It's something. Who knows?
Dude, I can hear this painting. That's what I love about it.
True, yeah.
You know, you can smell that marshy squelching mud.
Yeah.
He's got those pig
And
sties
diesel.
out in the back and the diesel. Yeah.
Cool.
But then it's this cool contrast with the blue sky above it. That's like the fresh air above the smog.
Yeah, that is very interesting. How drab and smoggy the ground is versus there's still blue sky.
Yeah, it's
It
not one of
almost
those
like
worlds that's completely
it's almost
polluted.
separate,
Hmm.
but it's not quite because he still has the clouds to tie it together. It's cool.
Yeah.
Really well treated.
Man, the way he painted around those wheels makes it look like they're tearing it up. like he's going real fast.
Oh yeah.
The mud
And
spinning off.
radial blur.
Yeah.
I probably didn't do that, but it looks cool.
Jump back to the front page of Artstation for a second. What else pops up here?
Sure.
Did you have any other things that you wanted to dive
No.
into?
No.
Of
You going
course,
picks, trending,
best,
or what do you guys typically sort by? Picks, trending, or community?
Trending.
Trending.
Yeah.
I never take it off picks.
Really?
Yeah, it'll go straight to trending on my phone, so I'll see that. But that's really funny.
I like the moment to moment update of trending.
Yeah.
That I can look at it during the day and it's shifted.
No, correct me if I'm wrong.
We gotta talk about Ariel Perez.
Yeah, I just saw that right before you.
I think
Dude.
Ariel Perez is probably one of my favorite artists on Artstation.
Yeah, he's great. He's absolutely fantastic.
Were we just talking about him at work because, like, they just posted this piece, or was there something else I didn't know about? Okay.
Yeah. They'll
Yeah,
do something
he's
like
just-
usually twice a month or something like that.
Okay.
I want to make every single one of these in 3D.
Yeah, I had a friend, Alec, who was on the show. He took one of the pieces that Ariel did. It's a gladiator one, probably from a while back.
I've seen somebody did this one in 3D. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Gladiator.
I don't know how. Oh, there it is with the white chest.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, he took that and did a 3D version of it. That's so cool.
That was the best of term, right?
Yeah, it won in best of term. But yeah, this guy's work is so inspiring. His style, like this is one of those people who is conveying a world in just a character.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing it successfully, and I think it's so cool.
Yeah, and the bridge between fantasy and sci-fi is really cool.
Yep.
And how he has both of those worlds, but the same style.
Yeah. His treatment of armor too.
Yeah, pop open.
It's
one
not
of these.
quite.
It's
It's not just metal.
Look at.
It looks like it could be metal, but then he does things like puts teeth on it, or
Oh yeah.
or it starts to take
We
on
just
like
go
an
back
organic.
It's very organic, yeah.
To this
Yeah.
new one, it's really cool. Also, I'm just gonna jump in with I don't know if Ariel Perez is a man or a woman or what.
I realized
I'm
after
gonna
I said that.
Stick with they pronouns
Okay,
for Ariel
yeah.
Perez.
Yeah.
There's not much about them on their about.
You just know you're
section.
balling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have done some work in games that I have seen, but I don't remember the name of the game.
Was it Gollum Gates? No, that was someone else.
I don't know. But I love the like overlaying of this and
Yeah.
just the repeated skull motif.
And that
This is
feels
very Doom 3 to me.
Totally.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is like very bark-like, which goes back to the
Oh, yeah.
organic, sort of
Yeah.
natural
Well,
feel.
I was gonna go with Bone, but that's probably because he has a skull helmet. But yeah, it keeps jumping back and forth. Like it could be metal, could be bone, could be both.
Not a xenomorph. That's funny. Yeah, I think one of my favorites
I love
is
this one with the blue face. That one's
That one.
super cool.
Swamp Knight. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Just a pop of color.
This one's
Yeah.
one of my favorites, or like on my top list for making in 3D. Come on.
You need that 200 pixel version.
Yeah,
Those
I
things
guess
loaded
so.
right up.
Come on.
Nice job, Spectrum.
Anywho, we'll do that, and you can still look at this beautiful art.
Yeah.
I love this orc. Can you imagine if the orc from The Hobbit looked like this instead of that white whatever the
Yeah.
hell guy?
Would have been cool.
Yeah. Or this thing. Dang it. Anyway, you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's sick.
Wow.
Womp womp. Anyway, Ariel Perez is awesome.
Yeah, he is.
Shall we go back to...
Yeah, let's see what else is going on.
Okay, well,
Artstation.
this might be an early
have
episode.
to wrap it
There
up.
it is. This is unbelievable. Even last summer, it didn't get this bad.
Man.
Somebody probably moved in
Ooh,
and they're just
Klaus.
downloaded a bunch of bitcoins. or
Klaus
something.
is really cool. You don't have to click on it, but
Yeah,
I recommend
yeah.
go check out Klaus. It's a really, really cool
Mhm.
animated.
I meant to see it. I never actually did.
Cool. It's 2D, but they're using some new technology that does procedural like 3D shading on it. It's really cool.
Interesting. So it's another one, kind of like the Spider-Verse, that's sort of
Yep.
pushing that
Right.
Exactly.
world.
Except Spider-Verse is fully 3D.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. They're the opposite mediums going for opposite
Yeah.
effects. The 3D looking like 2D versus 2D looking like 3D.
It's cool to see them pushing
This
the envelope.
reminds me of our coworker Marco when he does anatomy. Like this
Yeah.
is what it
Ew.
looks like.
Like him at 3 o'clock. It's like, fuck.
It does kind of look
Too many drinks.
not what I meant, but
This kind of looks like my coworker.
No.
Love you, dude.
the anatomy style looks kind of like the way that Marco
Yeah.
likes to work.
Yeah, it does.
It's cool.
Yeah, I
Cool.
like
It's
that.
all like coming in towards his face.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yeah.
alive. Oh, did they have the concepts? We were sharing at work the concept for the Jedi Fallen Order evil villain. Doesn't look like it.
Oh,
Concepts for it?
did
I'm
not.
not sure.
Yeah, they show the concepts. Somebody put it on our Slack channel.
Not sure. I'm sure
I've
we
always been
find
curious,
it.
when you're scrolling through Artstation, thoughts on ways to jump out? Like, what things jump out at you? Is it high contrast, or is it at this thumbnail stage?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that's funny that you say that because I was like scrolling through I'm a narcissist, obviously, so I was scrolling through the like pics of 2018 or whatever when they had like all of the top pieces of 2018, and I was like, did I get on here? Did I get on here? And like scrolling through it, and I did, but somebody else found it before me, and I actually skipped over it while I was like scrolling through, and it was the noir suit, and I was like, oh, okay, but the icon on it was so dark that my mind just like ignored it
Right.
flat out. Like these sort of like low contrast ones, like I'm almost like as I'm scrolling down, like not seeing it.
See, that's so strange because that one, the two that you just pointed out, and then the one with the guy who's got like the shaved sides, those three jumped out at me.
Interesting.
I don't know why.
I wonder how much of it is like the artistic stuff. Like obviously the red is just gonna jump out
Sure.
at
Yeah.
human eyes, and then how much of it is just like what we like. Like I just don't click on as many of the super real stuff as I do with the stylized.
Yeah.
But in the past, when
I'm
I was much
also-
more into the realistic stuff, I did the opposite.
I'm also constantly going through and looking for stuff like this. I'm like,
Like concepts for you. To
yes, and
Yeah.
then I hit this pin button and I pin it to
Yep.
a board that I have.
do. Jason's to do
Oh, that's
one
smart.
day.
I've never
I
done
do,
it.
yeah. I have like 2,000 pieces on like a to do one day board.
Wow.
This reminds me of Liam
Yeah,
Grice's
can do that.
work. I thought it was Liam Grice's work for a second.
Cool.
Who I think is also
Ooh.
worth bringing up.
Right side, middle row, far right.
This one?
Yeah.
Tomb Guardian. Oh yeah, we posted this one in the work chat.
That's so
Dope.
cool.
I feel like this could be in Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Like it kind of fits in that. Like
It could be in the temple area.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Love
could.
his mask
Fits
and the
into
depth on his armor is
Yeah.
freaking so cool.
Is that 3D or is that just a painting?
It's
a
painting.
painting,
It's a
right?
painting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, concept artist.
Somebody's definitely gonna make this in 3D.
I hope someone does.
That was probably a comment on some here. Like, hey, do you mind if I?
Hey,
Yeah,
buddy.
you got it.
So awesome.
Yeah, that is a really sick piece.
Yeah, I go back and forth. Some days I click on a lot of like cool concept work, but I think more often I tend to click on like realistic character, 3D characters, because that's like me constantly reminding myself that I'm not good enough yet. But it's also like, I want to do this, so I look at people who do it better than me.
Always a good reminder. I feel like I mostly click on 2D stuff, to be honest. This one calls out to me.
That's
immediately. Cool. My eyes just like.
Yeah, I think it's got the right amount of empty space around it to kind of like it's almost like a big circle. Like, hey, look at me. Crazy. And then the rim lighting too.
And then I also just love the stylized anatomy on this. It's just so cool.
Yeah, the pecs are really cool.
Yeah.
Scroll back up just a little bit because there was actually one a little farther. Going. A little bit more.
Sorry, I'm gonna open this in a new.
In a new window.
I'm at tab. This piece is really cool. It's
Astro Boy.
Yeah, but look. It's running in 3D.
What? Oh, shit.
It's a 3D runner.
Is that an NPR? Like, is that ZBrush non-photoreal stuff, or is that something else?
No,
that's a great question. I think
I don't think it is.
ZBrush and After Effects.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's super cool.
That is awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Dude, that's going to be what billboards are like. Like, everywhere you walk that there's a 2D billboard right now, it's going to have, like, a hologram of this.
Yeah.
Awesome job, Emma, Coach.
Yeah.
Cock.
I haven't even seen her name before.
Koch.
I don't know.
Emma, great job.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is
super
really
cool.
sick.
Gavin, I hope you're watching this and enjoying this Astro Boy flashback.
Back to the classics.
Dude,
we can just close through a bunch of
So,
these.
what were you looking for, Colton?
Just jump back in.
Go ahead.
I was just curious to know. So when I saw this one pop up the first day that it was posted, that was one that my eye just kept going to. And it's not even like with that piece. I'm not sure why I was so drawn to it. Did you guys have that at all, or does it?
I missed it completely.
Okay,
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's very drab colors, and I couldn't really figure out why I was like magnetized to looking at it.
Yeah. It also depends on what it's surrounded by. You know, on pics it's going to remain constant, right? Because this list won't change. But on trending or latest, it's gonna be complete. Well, latest I guess would be the same too.
Yeah.
But on trending it will change. So since you and I browse by trending, I think we may not have picked it up because we saw something else near it that we were like, oh, I'm gonna hone in on that instead.
Actually, I bet another part of it was that the very first thing I ever had to do in ZBrush was a tortoise. So there's probably some like ZBrush daddy issues here.
ZBrush daddy issues.
Everybody's got them.
So I want to pose the question to you guys.
Everybody's got that lion door knocker, right?
Really cool.
Did you guys have to do that?
No.
No, all my friends did. I missed that semester.
It's in
so that guy.
Scott.
Not Scott
Eaton. Snyder. No, not Scott Eaton. There's ZBrush books. From a while back that were like the comprehensive.
Oh, that's probably where it came from. Okay.
ZBrush books, and like the first thing you had to do in there was sculpt this lion door knocker.
No, so everybody when I was studying in Montreal, everybody back at school had to do those door knockers, and they're like, "Why you guys get to choose whatever you want to do? We're all sculpted characters and doing spaceships, and they all had to do a door knocker."
Wow.
I think Marco and I both did a door knocker.
I never had to do that.
Well, you were gonna start to say something before that.
I was gonna ask. So, given what we were just talking about, if you had to create that thumbnail now, what might you try to get it to read on the trending and/or pics page?
Boobs.
Not true though.
God, I hate that that's so like accurate.
No, when we were going through like the top of 2019, it was insane.
It was depressing.
It was crazy. Almost all just female characters.
You could go with the other end too, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah.
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 Tasteful crops.
Tasteful crops. So.
You want a real answer to that?
I do, because I'm wondering if there even is a strategy, because it's so...
yeah, honestly, when I upload a piece, it's taken me so long to make the piece that I don't give a shit about the icon, and like, I just want to get it out there. And really, I think it's about like not only what it's next to on the site and what your icon looks like, but where you're spreading it around on other social media platforms at the same time. So if you're spraying it on something like 10,000 hours, where there's a lot of people who are hungry for that sort of content, if you have a lot of Twitter followers, that kind of thing, I think
do your Instagram,
huge factor of that.
link it all back to Artstation.
And then obviously the positioning, right? So if you're browsing by trending and you post that thing on 10,000 hours and Twitter and Polycount and wherever all at the same time, and you've got a ton of users coming in and it's trending and it's number one, you're gonna look at it. It's number one.
Yeah.
If you're coming to the site,
It's true.
right?
It's true.
Like there are some times when I immediately skip over number one because I've already seen it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yes, I saw this on Twitter 2 seconds ago.
I think more or less too, like the piece tends to speak for itself. Like when it's a good piece, it just gets shared so much organically. Like think about how many pieces we see just because people post them in the Slack, right?
Yeah.
It's like because if one person sees it, they're gonna just do word of mouth to all of their friends. It's a classic marketing thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Just trying to get like the perfect thumbnail for the most clicks. That's a tough game to play. It's better time invested in other areas.
Yeah. Well, I just remember going through school, and whenever I'd have to post something that I'd worked on for the whole term and whatnot, I would get to that last point and be like, the last thing I want to do is harm my chances at visibility by doing something wrong in the thumbnail stage or whatever. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was just wondering if you guys had ever thought about that or not. That's cool.
Have you guys seen this piece before?
Yeah, I was just looking at this like
my first time.
I really like it, but more than that, I like the fact that it's just made in Maya. I think
completely.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, shit, you can do it, right?
It may not be Maya. It might be a different software package, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just poly modeling, like based on what I'm seeing here. It could be ZBrush, but still poly modeling.
Unnecessary, yeah.
Right.
That's kind of crazy to me.
I love this.
Getting those good loops in there so that when it smooths, it appears the way that you want it to appear. That's some patience.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. I don't quite possess.
Well, if you're looking at all those hyper realistic portraits,
it's true. I have patience for some weird stuff.
Yeah, you might need patience.
But I also don't really have patience for those like hyper real things either, because when I start getting into like setting up like renders and all that stuff, I'm like, I just want to sculpt, so I don't have patience for that part, but I do want to be able to do it.
One of the things that I really liked about this artist in particular is how they have that sort of style and that look for all their characters, and how they capture such different characters. Yeah, like it's literally a caricature, right? Like exactly who those characters are, and they look nothing like the real person, right? Like they have that perfect.
Yeah.
Such a good stylization. The colors are awesome.
Those Bruce Lee is great.
That I clicked on that one too. The render is so sick.
Really
the
cool.
negative space in that is freaking awesome, man.
Wow.
Damn, son.
The mix of stylization and realism.
Anatomy too.
That anatomy's got me.
Yeah.
I'm in. Sold.
That guy was lean.
Oh wait,
Where's the print?
I just want to say, look at the difference between the sculpt face and then the final face. Like how much of a difference the actual applied color makes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this may be painted over. I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, it's actually interesting there. He says the 3D model rendering and the retouch isn't him.
Oh.
I think he's just the concept artist.
Oh. So he did this part. What?
It's hard to tell with the way that they said it.
I'm so confused.
They
3D model
created
rendering
some part of this.
/ rendering and retouch by that person, Donkey.
Donkey?
I kind of like that name.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it's pretty good. But
yeah, that's kind of
interesting.
Yeah.
What does
that's
that
unclear.
mean? Tell us what it means.
Because it's such a different
so
piece
confused.
here.
Wukong.
Crazy.
Sweet.
Wukong.
Yeah, just the shapes.
I love this stuff too. It reminds me
Love the curves.
There's a comic book artist this reminds me of.
It's so primitive, and the
gorgeous.
curves are so nice.
Yeah, I've seen this one quite a few times as well. It's loading, but it's great. Yeah, Z-Modeler, baby. Woo! Look at that. And our biggest proponent of Z-Modeler we have. But it's so crisp.
Yes, it's the crispness, dude.
Yeah.
That is
Krispy Kreme.
So cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I like that polygonal dancing girl. That's
Dancing
so
really
cool.
dancing
This
ladies.
reminds me-
the color
that's
is
so
cool
cool.
too. Dude, that's awesome.
I
Like,
can't-
giant
I can't
hands
do
now.
this show
That is
and not talk about. Oh shit!
Maybe you can.
Yeah.
Fuck. Dude, that is so sick.
That's really cool.
The kneecaps. That's the way you handle those. For some reason, it's
No, yeah, no. It's like
It's
okay,
cool.
so
It's
we
like the little things.
yeah. If you're working on a superhero, you're definitely gonna pay a lot of attention to kneecaps. I'm just gonna say.
It's true.
It's true.
That's really cool.
Damn, yeah.
I love that. I love when it's got
Yeah, that's
good
all
lines
weird.
of action.
That's so weird.
Sorry, friend. You're
Just the front, bro.
everything up here is great. Everything down here is a little weird, but that's okay. The whole piece
Yeah.
comes together really nicely.
I'm a fan of the rhythm and flow of each angle.
Yeah.
It's like something in our most recent lunch sculpt. That was something I was thinking about a lot.
Well, yeah, and it's
Carried
from
it
like
out really
from
well.
behind you see it, from the front you see it, from the
Mhm.
side you see it. That's
Mhm.
really great. See, they paid a lot of attention. They obviously spun the model around a bunch while they were working on it.
Yeah.
But the
Cling.
more rhythm you have in the back view and the side view, the better your front view is going to look if that's your final render,
Exactly.
right? And like I was saying, I can't do this show and not talk about cult art because they are absolutely, aside from Ariel Perez, I think my favorite Artstation artist.
Oh, that chameleon! I saw that
Um,
everywhere. It's so good.
That Stefan Berenson. I love your work, Stefan. It's amazing. I love everything about it.
Yeah.
Just everything about it.
God.
So
damn.
toy-like.
Kind of, yeah. And like,
Like the rendering of it.
yeah. I think it's Arnold or V-Ray. But even I don't know if he has the Maya renders in here, if it's a different, I think it's
God.
a different one.
I
A lot of
appreciate
renders.
loading the Artstation
Um,
post up.
Yeah.
It really makes you practice patience.
I don't have to. I'm like, come on.
Keep
It's
telling you, man, of
2020. I
patience.
shouldn't have to wait more than a second for a web page.
Yeah, look at these. Look at this great topology flow. We're just gonna pay attention to that for a minute. I bet that's.
I don't think
Saves some
I don't think what he
undesirable
presented
flow.
in his final was smoothed either. I think that's all bevels for.
Oh, really? You think so?
Yeah,
Well, that might make more sense than what I was thinking.
yeah. I think it's actually like beveling to get the highlight instead of beveling for the smooth.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Even their Maya renders of it, I'm just like, oh, how did you make a blend fong material look so good?
Have you guys ever messed around with actually using lights and shadows and all of that stuff in
Yeah.
the viewport?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
I just did that recently, and I was like, "Oh, you can actually see a lot more, especially when you're doing like XGen and whatnot. Like having
you
the
have
lights.
to have the light on with
Yeah.
XGen.
I worked for
Basic
so
lighting does
long
not do the
without
trick.
lighting with XGen, and it was not fun.
Yeah. The fact that this looks so good just in Maya, like
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
3ds Max, sorry. Oh no. 3ds Max is crazy.
Do you think
It
they have a
looks so
better
good.
viewport rendering
I have
than?
no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Who-
He did the concept for this too.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I
He
think
does
it
some
is.
2D work as well.
Cold art.
Yeah. I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
wanting to
Yeah,
take.
he definitely did.
I think this one I've been wanting to do for a long time, which you guys will see in just a few minutes.
It's getting worse, guys.
Let's go back here and we'll open that in a new tab. Yeah, but I have used this stuff for reference of just like when I'm doing hard surface modeling, looking at the type of smoothing that he gets
Yeah.
Mhm.
out of this stuff, just in the viewport, just to get an idea of like, it's almost on that Tor Frick like
Yes, that's exactly what I'm
soft,
thinking.
soft hard surface sort of look that I strive for in my
Many
hard
of
surface
us do,
work.
man.
This guy, yeah, I want
Oh,
to
that's
make this so
cool.
bad, and I love all the detail and the concept and he's got this candles burning up here in the bedroll and like all
Mhm.
this gnarly stuff going on the horns. Like,
Yeah.
I need to do it.
Would you prefer something like that where it's pencil but it's all detailed out versus like a concept painting where a lot of it's just handled with like a brush stroke?
Somewhere in the middle, because
Yeah.
I do like deciding what that tertiary detail is going to look like for myself. But the simple brushstroke, it really depends on what the 3D object will be. If it's hard surface, I don't want a simple brushstroke.
Yeah.
That tells me nothing.
Yeah.
I want you to like basically do a perspective lines for me and like show me the
The
perspective
more
of what you
detail, the
were.
better.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the colors and everything else that you can get from a painting are really nice.
Yeah.
Just
Goddamn.
This is so cool. This is like the same.
So nice.
Oh, those panel
One
lines
guy.
are like the perfect thickness.
Right.
Yeah, great ability to balance detail with areas of rest.
Yeah. Like even on here, the bag looks, fairly realistic. It's like simplified, but it looks really nice. Everything's so clean, so crisp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Ooh,
this.
that engine.
Yeah.
That's a
Isn't that
Beastie
cool?
Boy
Oh
engine.
man, that's cool.
Oh, he's got the whole engine.
Yeah.
God damn,
Look at
bro.
that.
Got time.
That's cool.
Patience, time. That's all it is. That's all any of this is patience and time.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Art is
Forget
just
school, just be
patience
patient.
and time. That's all you need to eventually make work like Cult Art here.
Yep.
And Ian too.
Yeah.
Patience.
Yep.
Patience and time.
Seems to be it.
And motivation,
Patience
I
and
guess.
time.
So guess what we're saying is
And a renderer.
you guys should spend more on video games so that we can have more time to be patient.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
I
Seconded.
like it. More money.
Or thirded. I don't know.
Totally not saying that on behalf of Sony.
All right.
Cool. That was fun,
That
guys.
was a good one.
All right. Peace, guys.
Later.
Adios. I just realized I waved.